Imagine a quiet night out in the red center. The crickets are chirping, the stars glitter like salt on black velvet. Suddenly the world goes dark, the temperature drops and a strange hush spreads over the desert. An old stockman tells his mates it's like a giant hand just turned off the sky. In that moment, everyone looks up, heart thumping, wondering what on earth is happening. That feeling of awe and fear is exactly why ancient stories speak of nights when the stars went silent. Stick around. Give this yarn a thumbs up now, because you're about to hear how Aboriginal elders mapped the heavens long before telescopes, and why these tales still matter today. Out on country, songlines weave land and sky together. For tens of thousands of years, First Nations people have passed on their understanding of the universe through stories, dance, and rock art. One Wiradjuri elder once said these stories are their libraries. Each line tells where to find water, when to plant, and what happens when the heavens shift. Among these stories are powerful accounts of the sky disappearing, reappearing, and even falling. They're not just bedtime tales. They're cultural archives that describe eclipses, meteor impacts, and exploding stars. In an Arnhem Land community, it's said the sun is a woman, the moon a man, and when they embrace, day turns briefly to night. Other groups talk of giant birds eclipsing the sun and wise men hurling sacred stones to bring it back. What's extraordinary is that these myths often match what modern astronomers know. So over the next little while, we'll travel through 4 such stories, from the fear of an eclipse to the flash of a dying star, from a crater carved by a fallen evening star to the ring of mountains left by a cosmic cradle. Each one will hook you deeper into the dreaming while revealing surprising scientific truths. When a total solar eclipse swept over Queensland in 1922, newspaper reports said cattle froze in their tracks and kookaburras laughed nervously. A young drover from Charleville later told his grandchildren he'd never felt such cold fear. The world looked wrong, and even the dogs whined. That reaction echoes what Dwayne Hamacher's research found in Aboriginal accounts of eclipses. In many nations, eclipses were signs of death or disease. They upset the order of the cosmos. Yet those same stories show a keen awareness of celestial mechanics. In Arnhem Land, elders say the eclipse happens when the sun woman finally catches the moon man, a cheeky, love-chasing sort of tale that nonetheless hints at the sun, moon, and earth lining up. The Ualai people describe Bahlu, the moon constantly dodging Yi the sun, zigzagging across the sky until she occasionally overtakes him. In New South Wales, some groups explained the sudden darkness as a huge black bird covering the sun. Others blamed sorcery. What they all share is the tension. People panic, the camp falls silent, and a clever man rushes to intervene. He chants, throws sacred boomerangs towards the darkened disk, and sure enough, the light returns. From a modern standpoint, we'd say the moon's shadow simply passed and the sun shone again. But these rituals strengthen social bonds and reinforce a worldview in which humans, land, and sky are intertwined. That sense of fragility, that the sun might not come back, heightens the drama. Just when everyone breathes easy, another cosmic surprise looms. Back in the 1840s, people in the Southern Hemisphere noticed a new red star blazing near the Southern Cross. It flared up suddenly, outshining almost every other point of light except Sirius. Sailors charted it, farmers marveled at it, and a group of Burong people at Lake Tyrrell gave it a name, Kologaloric War, the wife of war, Canopus. In their story, the bright new wife appears beside her husband, dazzling the night. William Stanbridge, a missionary with an ear for stories, wrote that this star was the 3rd brightest in the Burong catalogue, a clue that something unusual had happened. Astronomers now know that star was Eta Carinae during its great outburst between 1837 and 1845. It's a massive pair of stars in the Carina constellation. One is unstable and occasionally sheds huge shells of gas, briefly becoming one of the brightest objects in the sky before dimming again. When it erupted, it created the Homunculus Nebula, a pair of glowing lobes shaped a bit like an hourglass, and it shocked observers from sailors to shepherds. The Barong integrated this transient event into their oral tradition, pairing it with Canopus as a cosmic marriage. As the flare faded over the next decade, their story held onto its memory. It's one of the only known indigenous records of Eta Carinae's eruption, and it shows how flexible and dynamic oral traditions can be. A century later, astrophysicists using telescopes would photograph the same nebula. Their data confirm what storytellers already witnessed. It's one thing to fear the sun going dark. It's another to see a new star appear and then wink out as if nothing happened. But sometimes the sky doesn't just change, something falls from it. Drive 160 kilometers south of Halls Creek, Western Australia, and you'll see a perfect circle carved into the Tanami Desert. This is Wolf Creek Crater, or Kandimalal to the Jaru people, a yawning bowl almost a kilometer across and 60 meters deep. When a bush pilot spotted it from the air in 1947, scientists rushed to explain it as a meteorite impact around 120,000 years old, made by an iron-rich rock about 15 meters in diameter, weighing 14,000 tons. Yet long before aeroplanes, the Jaru had already named and storied this place. One legend says a rainbow serpent burst from underground, gouging out the crater as it emerged. Another tells of the evening star, in some accounts Venus, slipping from the sky and slamming into the earth. Elders recount that the crater's rim is the raised earth from the impact, and that the star's fall caused the ground to tremble, throwing rocks for kilometers. Standing on the rim today, you can almost feel that ancient shockwave. The crater is ringed with acacias and home to spinifex, lizards and the odd camper, but the sense of otherworldliness remains. Science and story don't argue here, they enrich one another. The Jaru remember a cosmic strike through metaphor, a star's mishap, while scientists measure iridium levels and impact melt. Both perspectives anchor human experience in a vast timescale, and it's not the only Australian crater with a tale of something falling from the sky. In the Western Arunta Dreaming, there's a place where the Milky Way once dropped a precious cargo. High above, a group of women danced as stars, reveling in the clear night. One grew tired and placed her baby into a wooden cradle called a Coolaman on the edge of the Milky Way. As she rejoined the dance, the cradle slipped and tumbled down, the baby within screaming through the dark. When the Coolaman hit the ground, its impact thrust rocks upwards in a ring and buried the child. The mother, grief-stricken, became the morning star, and the father, desperate, became the evening star. Together they scour the heavens each night for their lost child. According to elders, the falling cradle can still be seen as the arc of stars in Corona Australis, the Southern Crown, and the place where it landed is Tunarala, also known as Goss's Bluff, a ring of mountains 5 kilometers wide and 150 meters high. Geologists describe Tunarala as the eroded remnant of a massive impact crater formed about 142 million years ago by a comet or asteroid, the central uplift long since weathered away. Visitors today can walk around its rim, feel the ancient bedrock underfoot, and imagine the moment something from far beyond crashed here. The story turns a cold scientific event into a deeply human narrative of loss and searching. It also teaches people to look to Corona Australis at certain times of year to mark seasonal changes. When scientists talk about shifting constellations due to precession, it echoes how these stories adapt as the sky itself moves slowly over millennia. Each element, the cosmic dance, the fallen baby, the ringed mountains, invites reflection and wonder. Together, they lead us to an even bigger picture, What do an eclipse, an exploding star, a crater in the desert, and a ring of mountains have in common? Each is evidence of how people observed and interpreted extraordinary sky events. Anthropologist Peg Sanday has written that Dreamtime narratives often encode geomythology, real geological events recorded as myth. Dwayne Hamacher calls these stories astronomical archives that preserve data across generations. Even the moral elements, fear of breaking taboo, warnings about disturbing sacred sites, serve practical functions. They protect water sources, avoid dangerous impact zones, and foster respect for nature. To someone hearing them for the first time, they might sound fanciful, yet modern science continues to reveal their accuracy. The Burong's bright wife star was a real stellar eruption. Kandimalal was indeed formed by a falling object. Tinorala's ring matches the uplift from an impact. And eclipse myths describe the alignment of sun and moon. These narratives also remind us that knowledge is always situated. In the 1800s, British settlers scoffed at primitive superstitions. Today, universities work with elders to decode and honor these sophisticated cosmologies. When an elder points to the Milky Way and sees a serpent or a Kulaman, they're not rejecting physics, they're expressing it in cultural terms. This interplay invites everyone, whether you call Australia home or are visiting from afar, to listen deeply to the world's first astronomers and to see how story and science can walk hand in hand. Standing under the southern stars, one begins to appreciate that the night sky isn't just a backdrop, it's a living archive. These four stories, the fearful eclipse, the sudden bright star, the crater carved by a fallen evening star, and the ringed mountains left by a dropped cradle, show how Aboriginal peoples observed and recorded the heavens. They teach practical lessons: when to fish, where to find water, how to avoid drought. They also carry deep emotional truths about love, loss, respect, and balance. By listening to them, we learn that science isn't owned by anyone. It's woven through cultures in different languages. We also learn that curiosity, wonder, and caution are universal human traits. Next time a storm rolls over the outback or a meteor streaks across the sky, remember these tales. Imagine the clever man throwing boomerangs to save the sun. Imagine the Burong watching a star fade. Imagine the rainbow serpent coiling beneath a crater. And imagine parents searching eternity for their child. These images connect us to the past and remind us that we, too, are storytellers under a shared sky. If these stories made you feel something, whether curiosity or just a sense of connection to country, hit like right now. Share this video with a mate who loves a good yarn, or anyone who thinks science and myth can't be friends. Leave a comment about the most breathtaking thing you've ever seen in the sky. Was it a comet, an eclipse, or just a perfect Milky Way? And if you reckon more people should hear the wisdom of the world's oldest astronomers, subscribe and ring the bell. There's plenty more wonder out there, and together we can keep exploring. Cheers for watching.